Have you ever went over a friend's house to eat and the food just ain't no good? They say the macaroni soggy, the peas are mushed, and the chicken tastes like wood. Let's go. Let's go. We all had that experience, right? We all had that. I'm glad you guys stopped in to see the video. It's for the listeners. And this video gonna be on the Sugarhill Gang, my introduction into rap. The Sugarhill Gang played a significance in for me when it came to rap, and their impact is felt everywhere. That song still jam. Even though I know some controversy, um, particularly with Big Bank Hank, and he definitely stole lyrics from Grandmaster Caz for sure. And Grandmaster Caz was never even credited as a songwriter on there. But that's a whole thing that we're going to get into a little bit later. I want to try to stay in order of things. I'm your host, Mr. J2. Welcome. I'm glad you guys were able to stop by and see what I'm, talking about over here. I hope with any video that I make that I hope you guys know that I'm sincere about what I'm talking about. If I'm talking about it, I'm trying to be sincere as possible. I want to especially highlight people, whether it's music, whether it's sports, whether it's acting, whether it's academics or whatever. I kind of want to build my platform to kind of give everybody props. Sometimes it can be a little rough to get to where you're going, and when you get to that height, it's another feeling. And so today we're gonna get started with some things. So this video is just me explaining how it really influenced me, and really breaking down the people who took part in making Rappers Delight or making us a reality, regardless of all of the shady stuff that happened to the people who did the song. I mean, royalties. I think they just started receiving their royalties for Rappers Delight for the longest. Big Bank Hank, Wonder Mike, and Master G wasn't getting their royalties like that. My introduction to rap was them. 1979. I'm seeing them perform live. Can't remember where it was. You know what I mean? They rapping over a interpretation of that beat, even though it sounded like the beat. But they actually went in, and I believe that they played the instruments and over and did their own interpretation. But it's obvious that they took that song from now. And now Rogers and the guys got credit. But let's start from the beginning. Sylvia Robinson, she was born in New York City in 1953. 1935. Sorry, 1935. She was recording as a teenager under the name Little Sylvia. In the 1950s, she teamed up with a guy, Mickey Baker, and they became Mickey and Sylvia. They did have a big record. They had Love is Strange, became a major hit, number one on the R&B chart, number 11 on the pop chart. And she wasn't only a singer, she played the guitar, she could produce, she wrote songs, and she was more so developing talent. And just gaining experience in all of these different things she was doing in her journey. In 1973, she had another major success as a solo artist with Pillow Talk, which reached number 3 on the US pop chart. And Sylvia was already a music industry veteran long before anybody called her, the mother of hip hop. And they coined the phrase for her, the mother of hip hop, because of the Sugarhill Gang. Um, so she wound up getting married to a guy, Joe Robinson Sr., and he had business interests, it says, in New York, including bars, before they met. And yeah, before he and Sylvia built their record company operation. So before they met, he was already balling. He was already balling by that time. They winded up living and moving to Inglewood, New Jersey. And they established a record label, All Platinum Records, in the late 1960s. And they said they were all platinum record and associated labels such as Stang, Vibration, and Turbo release soul and R&B records. So that's an interesting fact in music to really see the roots, because before you had rap, R&B was the thing. That was the one. Heck, who it wasn't nobody that I knew that I grew up that wasn't listening to R&B. It was cool to listen to R&B. You had LTD, you had the Commodores, you had a ton of groups. You see what I'm saying? Ohio Players, like, all of that's considered R&B. Confunction, like, yo. So um her and Joe, they had the record label. Um, Said their roster included acts such as The Moments, and they say Sylvia was really heavy into producing and writing. And once again, she had Pillow Talk. She had a song, Pillow Talk, that became one of the company's biggest success. Sylvia and Joe was skilled and was able to maneuver in the space of studios and even finances. It looks like they were able to maneuver in the entertainment industry because they learned it so well because they've been in it so long doing different things. So that's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty cool fact. Um, Anytime you can get into whatever industry you're getting into, you got to maneuver in that industry, learn everything you can, and you'll be well adapted. By the late 1970s, their businesses were struggling. It was struggling. It was hurting, strapped for cash. And, Sylvia started hearing about hip hop parties and DJs and things of that nature. Sylvia had looked at the hip hop scene, realized she can capitalize off of everything that was going on, the parties. The parties revolved around the DJs, and the DJs got the MCs involved, and rap started to grow. And it was 1979 when she really started formulating these ideas, from what I can see. So she figured, you know what? A rap record can work. A rap record could work on an album. So what she did was she said, you know what? We're gonna form our record label. She had the experience in Harlem and Harlem World. And so from that point on, she decided to name her label Sugarhill Records. And it's an interesting name considering that she established it in Inglewood, New Jersey, which it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like the name was really, um, it came from the historic Sugar Hill neighborhood of Harlem. So that's where she got the name from. And so, she just started coming up with a thing to where, hey, I could form a group we can do the music at that time. Now Rogers was in the group Chic, and they had a song called Good Times, and Good Times was being played everywhere. When I was a kid, that joint was the jam, Jack. So it was, I can remember that time wholeheartedly. Music was flowing. There was just so much stuff coming out. Good Times was like more in that disco vibe. That's where now Rogers was kind of residing in that place. He's always had his foot in that disco door a little bit, so to speak. But she decided to form a to get a to form a group, get a group formed. So I guess one day she was at an establishment that Big Bank Hank worked at. He's one of the members of the group that I said before. I believe I mentioned his name. The three members of the group is Big Bank Hank, who's Henry Jackson, Wonder Mike, who's Michael Wright, and Master G, who's Guy O'Brien. So all of them pretty much got, you know, mushed into a group. They didn't have a cohesiveness. They didn't, know one another like that. I believe Master G knew her son, Sylvia's son, and that's how, he was able to audition. Michael, I forgot. Definitely my man Charles Brown, he has a great YouTube, and he was breaking down Sugarhill as well. But getting back to Sugarhill. So she just threw this group together. She figured she would take an interpretation of Good Times. So she replayed the music. And so that's how the beat came to be. But she didn't give Nile Rodgers, and also was another writer that had written with him. She didn't give him the credit. But getting back to the group being formed, so Big Bang Hank was managing at the time, Grandmaster Caz and the Cold Crush Brothers, and Grandmaster Caz had already had the lyrics that Hank had in Rapper's Delight. Those are all Grandmaster Caz. Now, Wonder Mike, from what I understand, written his verse or verses, and also Master G. They wrote their stuff. From what I understand, Big Bank Hank just completely took all of his verses from Grandmaster Caz. He even Grandmaster Caz spelled Casanova in there, and Big Bank Hank has spelled Casanova in there too. So it's crazy. He didn't even change it, right? And Grandmaster Caz should get some royalties for that song, but who knows? Maybe we'll see that one day. I don't know though. But they formed a group. It was assembled. They formed it in Inglewood, New Jersey. Big Bank Hank was from the Bronx, and so I believe, from what I'm saying, the record was produced by Sylvia Robinson. Remember, she was a musician, so producing tracks and replaying was no problem for her. Sylvia's studio musicians, they recreated the groove rather than simply just putting the Chic record underneath the rappers. Um, and let me see, Rapper's Delight reached 36 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 4 on the Billboard R&B, and number 3 on the UK singles. It became the first rap single to reach the US top 40, and it introduced recorded rap to a broader audience. People were like, wow, it's just like people out there like me. You heard it and you're like, wow, I can't even believe this exists. From the moment I heard it, it was over. I just knew that I'll probably be listening to rap for the rest of my life. I just knew it was something that I'll gravitate to. And Rapper's Delight for me, despite the different controversy that's going on with Sugarhill, with the Sugarhill Gang, and Sugarhill Records, that was still the important album for me growing up. It definitely, it was a fun album. It was an album I really enjoyed. I really couldn't believe people were rhyming on a record, a popular record. You know, Good Times was very popular at that time. I mean, it was it was tight. Even today, you could put in Good Times and you jam it. So for me, the influence of Rappers Delight spread it vast. For one thing, you're talking about the first rap single that really made money. So then you got shot into the commercialism of rap. That's just where commercialism really took over when it came to rap. Because once people realize that they can make a profit off of this, and then you look at the bigger companies are looking at that too. You know, you were in a time where disco was in, but discos was kind of fading by the time you got to 1980 and 81. It wasn't really like it was in the mid 70s, the early 70s, the mid 70s, that's disco era. Once you got to the 80s, disco was kind of ending. You had some people that were still hanging on to disco. You know, they were still like trying to keep it alive, but it was just at that point, it was kind of dying out a little bit. And shout out to the people who made the disco classics because the disco era was a different era. It was definitely a cultural growing era, right? Some people like disco, some people don't. It is some disco songs I like, and it's some where I'm like, ah. But I think that Rappers Delight really, I won't say set the bar, but it showed people that you can do this. Like you can really grab this mic and really hold it down. And you know, I know it's other people outside of the Sugarhill Gang that was making records, um, and maybe that's true. And I'm pretty sure it was because it was a ton of people. You had Cool Herc, you had a whole bunch of people doing stuff at that time. But Sugar Hill just launched it into a broader audience, and that beat alone was able to propel it and show people something. Like if you wasn't from New York and you didn't really have access to some of the MCs that was out there, it wasn't like you would look around and be like, oh, I, you know, someone would be rapping. It gradually built in states and all of that. It wasn't just like, oh, it started in 73 and everybody around the world knew it existed, right? It stayed in that box. And then later on, it was able to kind of gravitate out and reach different listeners. And so the one thing about Rappers Delight I can respect is look, it's simple bars, right? It's a party record. It's not anything that's going to be lyrically going down in history as the best, right? But for that time and era and the rhyming, I didn't think it was bad at all. I still put it in today and can just jam like. And when you hear it come on, like, so what you hear is not a test. I'm rapping to the beat, and he's just talking to you, right? But the way he came on with that was phenomenal. Like it set the tone of the record. And that's what I mean by phenomenal. Not like, oh, the best thing ever, but it set the tone of the record. I like rap. I like hip hop. You know what I mean? In general. It's so many good groups that have come through and so many solo artists that came through. You know, Naughty by Nature, you know, they don't get enough mention. It's a ton. It is a ton. And so I just wanted to say that Rapper's Delight was really the start for me. That was the key in the ignition, so to speak, and just got the car started. Um, I know that in the music industry, you'll have different things that happen. And sometimes it's not always fair, but I am appreciative of this record. Um, was really noted, it's the first rap record, which it depends on what your perception of that is King Tim the Third, and it's off of Fatback's album, one of their albums. and it was seen as like the rap breakthrough, right? Because the dude was just he was rapping on there, but it was on a B side of a Fatback album, or EP or record. So it wasn't one of those ones that was just like just broadcast everywhere. It was on the B side. You just flip the album over. Oh yeah, I got this track over here. That's what it was. So Rappers Delight that came out nationally and hit the ground running. Big Bang Hank um, was the manager of the Cold Crush Brothers and Grandmaster Caz. Grandmaster Caz also went by another name. The previous name he had was Casanova Fly. So if you listen to Rapper's Delight, you'll hear Big Bang Hank spelling something. If you listen, he's spelling Casanova Fly. I'm FL. He's like I'm FLY or something like that. He say that at the end, but he spelled Casanova and then he say Fly. But he kind of did a disservice to Grandmaster Caz. I mean, that's a tough one to swallow because Grandmaster Caz to this day is like, yo, give me my writing credits on there. And I agree with him on that. They winded up eventually paying Chic. They winded up solving it. Bernard Edwards and now Rogers eventually got credited. And I think they had to give him a little bit of cheese, a little bit of royalties. And Grandma, yeah. Um, so the Sugarhill Gang dropped their first album in 1980. It was their first studio album. It was produced by Sylvia Robinson. It got Rapper's Delight on there. Um, then they had another album called Eighth Wonder that came out in 1981. And they had the song Eighth Wonder and they had the song Apache. Apache is like a popular song. Look that up. And Eight Wonder too. Um, let's see. The Sugarhill Gang's first album reached number 32 on the Billboard R&B. This Eighth Wonder album had reached number 50 on the 200 and number 15 on the R&B albums. And Eighth Wonder, the song itself had reached number 82 on the Billboard Hot 100, the song itself. Then they had one called Rapping Downtown in 1983. And it had The Lover and You, The World Is Out, Kick It Live from 9 to 5. I can't even tell you that I even listen to any of those songs. I may remember them when I hear them. Then they had another album, Living in the Fast Lane. It was the fourth studio album that came out in 1984. And then they tried to make another album in 1999 called Jump On It. It was a reunion album. I look, at the end of the day, they had a song that changed everything. you know. So the songs besides Rapper's Delight that was pretty decent for them was Eighth Wonder, Apache, The Lover and You, The Word Is Out, Kick It from 9 to 5. I liked Apache. I didn't think Apache was too bad. Um, Sugar Hill Records had more groups on that record too, more than the Sugar Hill Gang. They had Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. They had the Sequence. That group had Angie Stone in it, but at that time she was going by Angie B. So check them out. She was a serious writer. I think she produced some stuff back at the time. So she's been doing her thing. She was doing her thing for years before she had her album out. Funky 4+1, The Treacherous Three, Spoonie G. Spoonie G, definitely a legend. Crash Crew, West Street Mob, Mean Machine. And then they had a few various Melly Mel related releases. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, definitely, they did the message. So Sugar Hill had some groups that definitely made a difference in the space of rap. Because to me, I'm not, Spoonie G definitely was different. Super old school, super old school. The Treacherous Three, Funky Four Plus One. I mean, those are some pretty good groups. But Grandmaster Flash and the Sugar Hill Gang definitely put that label on their back and carried it. Um, I think Sugar Hill Gang left an impression on me when it came to Rappers Delight, because Rappers Delight for me kicked everything off. So nothing but gratitude for them doing that song. I still don't like the fact that Grandmaster Caz doesn't get his credit, but they opened up the doors for a lot of people. Rappers Delight, if you haven't heard it, check it out. Sugar Hill Gang was definitely influential in um, putting the culture in the view of a broader audience. So shout out to them for doing that. Shout out to Grandmaster Caz for writing a rhyme that was phenomenal. He definitely did his work. And yeah, I don't want to take up too much time, but yes, the Sugar Hill Gang definitely was a strong influence. In the description box, I'm going to leave where leave the YouTube channels where I saw that information. Um, and I actually researched on my own, but I like the way they conveyed it. So I think that'll be a good chance if you want to get the full, unadulterated story of it. I say do that. I'm gonna have that at the bottom. You can click on them. Boom, check those channels out. I just wanted to, um, you know, discuss what my introduction to rap was. I kind of got off in some other stuff as far as who owned this and who did that. But sometimes you do have to know some of the origins, at least know some of it, because then you can go research the rest on your own. But if it's something that can keep your mind kind of interested in it, I'm all for it. Like I said on a previous video, I said that this may not be the best video you see, and maybe this video um, encourages someone else to make a better video than this in full display. Pac had a quote one time. He said, I may not be the one to change the world, but I'll spark the brain of the person that will change the world. And that's how Pac was. Pac was very inspirational in what he do. And he drew from all of these guys who was doing this, of Melly Mel and all of this. And Rappers Delight, if you talk about the party scene. I mean, no doubt about it. Rappers Delight was very influential. It came to us in an unconventional way, but I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. I really appreciate that. So, yes, thank you for coming over to my channel. Um, I've probably talked longer than what I needed to, but definitely check out the Sugar Hill Gang. You might hear some cuts like you like, oh, I didn't hear that in a while. Like you never know. Whoever is watching this video, check out the Sugar Hill Gang. Like I said, Apache was good. Eighth Wonder was good. Obviously, Rapper's Delight. I think you got about another one or two songs that I rock with on their catalog. But, like I said, Rapper's Delight was definitely the car was already going. They just put one more piece in the car and it just took off. It was something that was missing. Spark plug or something, you know what I mean? And that was the spark plug. So yes, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you want to keep staying on this journey and seeing what other content that I produce, hit that subscribe button. Always a pleasure for the listeners. It's definitely very appreciative that everybody stopped by. So on behalf of For the Listeners, I'm Mr. J2. Later.